the Labour Party's recent Facebook campaign, designed to counter the surging popularity of Reform UK, has sparked internal dissent among some MPs and activists. The campaign's tone, perceived by some as inflammatory and divisive, has raised concerns about its effectiveness and ethical implications. The core of the controversy revolves around a series of Facebook advertisements, notably those produced by a group called UK Migration Updates, which boast about the government's record on deporting migrants. The advertisements themselves are strategically ambiguous. While the content clearly promotes a positive narrative regarding the government's immigration policies, they conspicuously avoid displaying the Labour logo. Instead, they utilize a color palette remarkably similar to that employed by Reform UK, potentially confusing voters and blurring the lines of political attribution. This deliberate lack of clear branding raises questions about transparency and the intent behind this subtle, yet potentially misleading tactic. The decision to use this approach, rather than overtly associating the campaign with the Labour Party, suggests a calculated attempt to capitalize on the anti-immigration sentiment prevalent within certain segments of the population without directly bearing the political responsibility for such messaging. Another facet of the campaign, a Facebook group titled Protect Britain's Communities, further emphasizes the government's achievements in combating crime and antisocial behavior. Similar to the UK Migration Updates campaign, this initiative also avoids overt Labour branding, opting instead for a prominent display of the Union Jack. This tactic, while seemingly aimed at appealing to a broad patriotic base, also contributes to the overall ambiguity and raises concerns about the party's willingness to engage in potentially misleading political maneuvering. The lack of transparency concerning the funding and coordination of these campaigns further fuels the concerns regarding ethical implications and potential breaches of political advertising regulations. Rachel Maskell, Labour MP for York Central, whose regional party established the UK Migration Updates page, voiced her apprehension about the campaign's tone. She expressed concern that such messaging might exacerbate existing community tensions, particularly given the vulnerabilities of asylum seekers who have often experienced persecution. Representing York, a city known for its commitment to human rights, Maskell underscored the importance of upholding the dignity of all individuals, irrespective of their immigration status. Her statement highlights a significant internal conflict within the Labour Party, pitting pragmatic political strategists against those who prioritize ethical considerations and inclusive messaging. The recent surge in Reform UK's popularity in opinion polls has fueled alarm within the Labour Party. A recent YouGov poll placed Reform ahead of both Labour and the Conservatives, highlighting the significant threat posed by this rising right-wing party. While much of Reform's gains have come at the expense of the Conservative Party, there is growing evidence that it is also encroaching upon Labour's traditional voter base, causing significant concern within Downing Street and amongst Labour MPs. This shift in the political landscape has prompted Labour to implement countermeasures, including the formation of MP groupings in reform-vulnerable constituencies. These groups facilitate the sharing of campaign strategies, polling data, and crucial local insights to better understand and address the challenges posed by Reform UK's rising influence. The UK Migration Updates Facebook advertisement, funded by the Yorkshire and Humber Labour Party, exemplifies the party's efforts to counter Reform's narrative. The advertisement, boasting about a 5-year high in migrant removals, highlights a specific policy area where Reform. This targeted approach signals a direct response to Reform UK's messaging, aiming to challenge their claims and counter their influence. However, this tactic also risks reinforcing the very narrative that Labour seeks to counter, inadvertently legitimizing the importance of the issue for certain demographics. The use of the advertisement by Labour North West on a Facebook page called Putting Runcorn First further underscores the party's geographically targeted campaign strata. This page, similar to others, features a large Union Jack, but avoids explicit Labour branding, furthering the ambiguity surrounding the party's campaign tactics. The consistent absence of clear Labour branding raises questions about the party's transparency and its willingness to embrace potentially ethically questionable campaigning practices to gain a competitive advantage. This approach raises concerns about the long-term implications for the party's image and credibility amongst voters who value honesty and transparency in political communication. The strategic ambiguity and apparent attempt to subtly influence public opinion without bearing overt responsibility raise serious questions about the ethical standards guiding the Labour Party's campaign strategy in this crucial political battle. The internal divisions within the party, highlighted by MP Maskell's statement, further underscore the complexity and potential risks associated with this approach. The long-term consequences of these divisive tactics remain to be seen, but the current controversy undoubtedly raises significant questions regarding Labour's commitment to transparency, ethical campaigning, and the potential for unintended negative repercussions.